I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Minutes ago, shocking secrets were uncovered about Bruce Lee's intense training regime. Bruce Lee pushed his body to the edge, shattering traditional training limits. Famous for his strength, which seemed too immense for someone his size, he stood out as possibly the strongest in his weight class. He ditched the usual martial arts rule against weightlifting, mixing it with his combat skills. What hidden dangers did this extreme routine harbor? Let us uncover the dark risks lurking behind Bruce Lee's intense training. Bruce Lee's fusion of force and philosophy. Let's take a closer look at his workout routine and see if there are any lessons we can apply to our own fitness journeys. He stood out because he used weight training, which was unusual for martial artists back then. Many believed that lifting weights would make them bulky, slow, and less agile, which could negatively affect their fighting ability. But he found that he could increase his explosive power and quickness by mixing martial arts with bodybuilding and powerlifting. He also worked on building a strong connection between his mind and muscles. A long-lost chapter from his diary emerged as he honed his technique, revealing a secret training method that could change athletic training forever. His goal wasn't to get bigger muscles, but to become stronger. His training was unique and focused on making him faster and more powerful without gaining much muscle mass. He stayed around 135 pounds but had amazing strength. For example, he could do push-ups using just 2 fingers and hold heavy weights for long periods with his arms straight out, showing just how strong he was. What truly set him apart was how he mixed his training with deep philosophical ideas. For him, training wasn't just about building strength, it was about developing both the mind and the body. He believed that by understanding the deeper principles behind physical training, he could push his abilities even further. By looking at his approach, we can learn not only how to get stronger, but also how to train smarter by connecting our mental focus with our physical exercises. This way of thinking drove him to practice all the time. He didn't just want to stay in shape, he wanted to be the best because he loved what he did. He wasn't one to follow the usual routines. Instead, he was always trying out new techniques to get better. He created his own training style, one that was highly personal and effective. He developed a new martial arts philosophy called Jeet Kune Do, which focused on being efficient, direct, and keeping things simple during combat. He didn't believe in following traditional martial arts rules too strictly. He even questioned common bodybuilding methods. Instead, he studied scientific research to make sure his training was actually working. In many ways, he was ahead of his time, coming up with advanced ways to boost his strength and change the way people thought about fitness. When it came to his workouts, he mixed different types of exercises. He did both compound movements, like deadlifts, squats, and clean and presses, as well as isolation exercises. These helped him build strength in ways that were practical for fighting. There are even photos and videos showing him doing one-armed presses and other moves to improve muscle coordination. He didn't just focus on big movements, though. He believed exercises like bicep curls were useful, not just for looks, but because they could help in things like wrestling. Yet the most challenging part wasn't just his dedication, it was his constant search for more. He always wanted to learn, adapt, and grow, making his training philosophy stand out. He was really focused on improving his heart health. He ran almost every day when he could, always pushing himself to run faster and add tougher runs. To make things even harder, he used different methods like running with weights to build up his endurance. Let's look at how his unique training methods set him apart. The dark training techniques of a martial arts master. In addition, he was ahead of his time with interval training. He set up his workouts like a boxing match, going hard for 2 minutes and then taking a break for 1 minute. Not many people were using this method back then, but he believed it was key for building stamina, especially as a martial artist. He was convinced that having a strong heart and lungs was crucial for lasting through long physical activity. He often said that without good stamina, a fighter might land a few strong hits, but would get tired quickly. which would hurt their performance. His training plan covered everything: running, lifting weights, and practicing martial arts moves like kicks and punches. Each day, he'd focus on different techniques to keep things balanced. But this wasn't the toughest part. What set him apart was how his fitness plan wasn't just about staying healthy. It was about pushing his abilities as a fighter. His routine helped him keep his energy up for longer periods, which made him even better at martial arts. It shows just how important cardio training is for athletes, especially in combat sports. One of these unique techniques was speed training. Most people make their workouts harder by lifting heavier weights or doing more repetitions, but he focused on doing his exercises faster. This idea is a lot like what many people do in CrossFit today. He was fascinated by this method because fast, explosive movements use fast-twitch muscle fibers. These fibers are responsible for quick, powerful actions. When he sped up his workouts, his body felt as if it was handling heavier weights. This type of training engaged more fast-twitch fibers and likely caused less muscle damage, which could lead to strength gains without making muscles much bigger. It was an effective method and also made workouts more exciting. Trying it could quickly show some noticeable results. By using these creative techniques, he kept his fitness at an extraordinary level, proving that thinking outside the box in training could bring remarkable results. This method was not only great for physical development, but also helped keep the mind sharp and adaptable, as he was always pushing the limits of traditional fitness training. If you're looking for a different way to challenge yourself beyond the usual workouts, why not try something new? One interesting method to consider is isometric training, a technique that he often used. Unlike regular workouts where you're moving around a lot, isometric training involves staying still. You hold a position, like pausing halfway through a bicep curl, and keep it there while using weights like dumbbells. Gradually, you lower the weights as your muscles start to feel tired. Bruce Lee found this method effective because it targets the hardest part of an exercise, where the resistance is greatest. This means your muscles are working harder because you're not moving through the full range of motion. He combined this still hold technique with his usual dynamic workouts, using what's called yielding isometrics. This involves holding a weight steady until your muscles become fatigued. But that's not all. One of the more fascinating methods he practiced was called overcoming isometrics. This technique is about trying to lift or push a weight that you know you can't move. Imagine trying to bench press a bar loaded with an impossible weight, like 400 or 600 pounds, or attempting to squat with a bar that is fixed in place. It's like trying to move an unstoppable force against an immovable object, with him acting as the unstoppable force. Next, we dive into the special techniques that challenged his limits, the science of overcoming isometrics. This method doesn't just test your body in unusual ways, it also activates the fast-twitch muscle fibers that are key for explosive strength. It's about seeing how far you can push yourself, even when you know the weight won't budge, training both your body and mind to handle extreme resistance. This kind of exercise is a tough challenge, combining a static hold with intense effort, offering a fresh alternative to standard workouts. When you're trying to move something that won't budge, your brain and muscles can't tell the difference between something that's just really heavy and something that's actually stuck. At first, you put all your strength into pushing or pulling. This uses your fast-twitch muscle fibers, which are the ones that help you create a lot of force quickly. By doing this, you're not only making these muscles stronger, but also building a stronger connection between your brain and your muscles. This connection between your mind and your muscles is really important in bodybuilding, where the focus is on getting your muscles to respond directly to your thoughts. The brain sends signals through your nerves to your muscles to make them move. However, how much of the muscle gets activated can vary from person to person, usually between 30 and 50%. 50% is typically seen in highly trained athletes. But even these athletes can't activate all their muscle fibers at once without risking injury or exhaustion, which could be dangerous in a survival situation. Dennis Rogers, who is naturally able to activate a higher percentage of his muscle fibers, shows incredible strength for his size. This makes him one of the strongest people in his weight class. Similarly, he focused on engaging as many muscle fibers as possible by practicing something called overcoming isometrics, where he pushed against immovable objects to train his muscles. But here's where it gets interesting. The more you use these fast-twitch muscle fibers, the better they get at responding. He took this a step further by tensing his whole body after his workouts. This is similar to how bodybuilders pose after lifting weights to think about how each muscle works during movements, which can improve overall performance. For example, if you keep your whole body tight while doing exercises like push-ups or pull-ups, you'll find you can perform these moves more efficiently. A firm body is easier to move than a loose one. This technique likely helped him achieve impressive feats like his famous two-finger push-up, but that's not all. He believed that controlling your movements came from keeping tension in your muscles, which is especially helpful during exercises that target specific muscles. By keeping the body tight, you stop any unwanted movements and make the target muscles work harder. Beyond that, he also believed in training certain muscle groups, like the abs and forearms, every day. He understood that a strong grip helps build overall strength. In martial arts, getting stronger is very important, and he knew this well. Every day, he set aside time to train his core muscles because they are the source of all strength in martial arts. When you throw a punch, it's not just your arm and shoulder doing the work. The real power comes from your waist. This includes the twist and force created by your hips and legs as they push against the ground. Building a strong core is essential because it supports almost every move in martial arts, even special techniques like the two-finger push-up, which require a very strong core to do correctly. His dedication shaped his legacy, influencing martial arts deeply. Bruce Lee's revolutionary training methods. He became well known for his focus on core exercises, especially one he mastered called the dragon flag. For this exercise, he would lie back on a bench, keeping only his upper shoulders on it. Then, he would lift his legs straight up and slowly lower them without letting the rest of his body touch the bench, then raise them again. This exercise is not only difficult but also looks impressive, showing off his incredible strength and control. But here's the interesting part. He didn't just train for strength. He trained to use every muscle in the most effective way possible. So if you think this is helpful, you might want to explore more of his techniques, whether it's to boost your own knowledge or to add something new to your training plan. When you think of him, it's hard not to picture his strong, toned body. His abs were well defined, and his shoulders were broad like the hood of a cobra. He built this impressive physique at a time when even some professional football players didn't believe in the benefits of weight training or sticking to a strict fitness routine. His workout routines were so effective that they caught the eye of famous bodybuilders like Dorian Yates, Lou Ferrigno, Lee Haney, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Flex Wheeler, who won the Arnold Classic 4 times, said, "He was a leader in combining bodybuilding with martial arts training." He looked at what bodybuilders were doing and adjusted their techniques to better fit martial arts. He followed the idea of keep what is useful, throw away what is not, and make the rest your own in his martial arts training. This method not only improved his skills, but also set a new standard in martial arts training that many people still look up to today. At Golden Bell Training, Prince diligently works to share the rich heritage of Chinese Kung Fu, aiming to enhance the martial arts skills of his trainees. Bruce Lee, a name synonymous with martial arts excellence, often surfaces as a prime example of a dedicated athlete whose innovative training methods have left a lasting imprint on fitness and martial arts communities worldwide. The training routines developed by Bruce Lee are celebrated for their intensity and specificity to martial arts, drawing attention and discussion from various experts in the field. His influence remains a pivotal point in discussions about fitness techniques tailored for martial arts. Recently, a video from the Bruce Lee Real Fight channel titled Bruce Lee's Most Powerful Workout and Weirdest Training Method attempted to delve into Bruce Lee's workout regimes. However, Prince felt that the video did not do justice to the full scope of Lee's innovative methods. Instead of showcasing his unique training routines, the video highlighted personal anecdotes and rare quotes, such as Lee's practice of punching trees until they bent. focusing more on the peculiar rather than his impactful training strategies. Prince believed that such portrayals could overshadow the significant contributions Bruce Lee made to martial arts training, leaving a gap in understanding his true legacy in the realm of physical fitness. But that's not the whole story. Let's focus on what really mattered in his workouts, how they helped make him a great martial artist, and look at some of his unique training methods that can help any martial artist today. In May of 1965, he was training at the Hak Kyung Gym in Hong Kong, where he kept a detailed record of his workouts. Some critics have used these records to argue that he wasn't as strong as people think. For example, they point out that his squat weight was only 95 pounds, less than what many average people could lift. They questioned why he even bothered. The tale begins in 2006, not as a pivotal year itself, but as a moment of reflection on past criticisms. Rewinding further to May 1965 reveals a crucial chapter, merely 6 months after a significant altercation with Wong Jack Man. This confrontation would later be seen as a turning point in Bruce Lee's martial arts philosophy. Before this pivotal fight, while residing in Seattle, Lee had openly prioritized traditional kung fu practices over physical conditioning in an interview. Although he was already incorporating weight training into his regimen, he hadn't fully realized the importance of melding strength and conditioning with his kung fu techniques. This perspective was about to change drastically, shaping his future training methodologies and philosophies. Now we see how a major challenge changed his approach forever. The transformation of a fighter. After the important fight with Wong Jack Man, everything changed for him. Leo Fong suggested that if he had improved his footwork and added more hooks and uppercuts to his techniques, he could have handled Wong Jack Man's strategy of keeping his distance more effectively. Linda Lee often said that he felt he wasn't in good enough shape. He worried that if the fight had lasted longer, Wong Jack Man might have outlasted him. Because of this, he turned to his close friends and students, James Lee and Alan Joe in Oakland, for help to improve his training routine. This was a routine he had started while visiting a gym in Hong Kong. Alan Joe, who had trained with Steve Reeves, introduced him to a tough weightlifting program similar to that of a bodybuilder. This new training approach had a big impact on his body. He went from weighing 140 pounds to 165 pounds, focusing not only on gaining muscle, but also on improving his martial arts skills and overall fitness. But this wasn't the most surprising change. This new training was a big turning point for him. The routine he started in Hong Kong was his first real fitness plan, and he saw a lot of progress at first. However, even though he got bigger and stronger, he realized that these changes did not necessarily make him a better fighter. This led him to think more deeply about whether his training methods were really effective, a question he often asked others to consider about their own training. When he returned to America with a contract for Number One Son, which eventually led to his famous role as Kato in The Green Hornet, he had to look good for his acting roles, but at the same time, he had to stay focused on his performance as a martial artist and teacher. This dual focus was very important, not just for his career, but for improving his martial arts skills, especially in a time when many other martial artists were beginning to include strength training in their routines, but none approached it quite like he did. He was also a passionate reader and learner. He often turned to Jack LaLanne, a top fitness expert at the time, to learn more about bodybuilding and strength training. His curiosity didn't stop there. He also studied the methods of historic strongmen like the Mighty Atom, Alexander Zass, and Eugen Sandow. He wasn't just interested in their stories. He wanted to use their ideas in his own training, aiming for strength through technique rather than just building muscle. Eugen Sandow, in particular, had a big impact on him. Sandow was known for his well-balanced physique and strength and was an early supporter of building strength with controlled, lighter weightlifting. He liked this idea but made changes to fit his unique needs as a martial artist, focusing on building strength without adding too much bulk. And this wasn't the end of his journey. His way of training was a mix of learning, trying new things, and making adjustments, using ideas from the past to create a unique path that was very different from other martial artists of his time. His training showed his innovative spirit and commitment to martial arts, setting a new standard for those who came after him. What do you think? Could modern martial artists benefit from adopting Bruce Lee's innovative training methods? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.